I met a gypsy.
And I think that shit helped you later in your career too, when you kind of like, to fast forward a bit, like when you lost the Red Bull KTM ride and then you just went privateer again. And it seems like that same spirit, like that same amateur spirit and your mum and dad coming together for you. Like it's sort of, if you didn't have that spirit, that's probably game over. But then look at the crazy, like you almost had another career after that.
Yeah, really did. Just like, yeah, so was obviously got the factory KTM ride, which was like the best 450 ride at the time. Blew my knee out both years. So that was devastating. And I felt a lot of pressure on factory KTM. I don't know. That's when I first really started dealing with anxiety. And I didn't even know what anxiety was at the time. I was just like, I felt pressure. I was unhappy. I blew my knee out both years. It was a rough couple years. You got people like Roger and Ian who's hired you to do a job, and it was rough. So I didn't get rehired, and I remember being in Roger and Ian's office that day when they're pretty much letting me go, and it was rough. They had a sheet of paper, and it was like, you've done. I barely raced. I blew my knee out pretty early both years, and then it was rough. So they're like, here's your results. Here's how many races you did out of 29 races. We're going to go a different direction. I remember I was trying to hold it back, and it was like, I was at a low point. Tears started running down my face. I'm like, I get it. I understand. Thank you. So that was it. So I remember from there, my agent, Tony Gardia at the time, I went for a meeting with Keith McCarty at Yamaha because I said, I wanted to ride on the factory Yamaha team. I was like, I don't even want a salary. Just
why?
I was like, because there's like a spot open there. There's something somewhat available. And I remember going in for this meeting with Keith McCarty, and he's calling me down he doesn't even know my name. He's calling me down the whole time. And like, I'm not going to correct him, right? I'm just going along with it.
What a dog.
And then I remember him saying to me, he said, well, why don't you just be a test rider for us? And dude, I'm like 25 at the time. I felt like I just shot to the heart. Like, am I at the stage where I'm a test rider already? Like, I'm in this meeting because I want to ride for your factory team. And I don't know, this meeting went so weird. It went so weird. I was just like, man, I'm coming in here to ride for your factory Yamaha team. Like, and he's like, well, let's just get you a few bikes and we'll get you on a contingency program. I'm like, holy fuck, this is a long ways from factory Red Bull KTM, I was like, all right, I got to start somewhere. So got a couple Yamahas, and you know what? Even though I wasn't on the factory team, like, he actually looked after me well. He gave me a good bonus program for top 10s. So I was on the Yamaha, and Mitch was looking after me at the time, and we had some really close friends helping. And so, yeah, but at that point, it was like I either could quit easily, just quit, forget it, start the next chapter in my life, or I could fight tooth and nail, which would be really hard, to try and get myself back up there. But I didn't quit because I felt like in myself, like I still had it in me. Like I was willing to do the work. I was willing to get back to where I needed to be. So, and I still trusted that I could do it. If you don't really believe you can do it, I don't know, but I believe I could. So I did 3 or 4 races on this Yamaha, and then this is when Purcell don't know what was going on with him in Supercross, and they were having some problems, and he got let go. And I'm telling you, when Bobby Hewitt gave me this call, it was like the most gratifying feeling probably ever, because it was up there with the signing with PC, but more of a reward. Like, I busted my fucking chops to get back on my feet again. And then I got this factory Husky ride, and it was for the full year. It wasn't like, here, just do a few races. It was for the full year. Yeah. And dude, I literally like was almost in tears. It was like, fuck, I'm back on a factory team again. And the thing that was so funny, this is one thing I've learned in the sport, is no matter how frustrated you are, it's such a small industry. You just got to sometimes just bite your tongue. Because after the factory KTM deal, I was very bitter. I was upset. I was pissed, but I bit my tongue and just did the work, right? And then, so when Bobby Hewitt called me to ride for the team, that has to get approved through Roger, Ian, and everyone. So essentially, they kind of rehired me again, you know? So that's where I was like, that was a lesson learned. Like, instead of going out there bad mouthing, blah, 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 just shut up, do the work, and it comes back around. So, you know, Roger, Ian, you know, put me on the Factory Husky team. I mean, a big part of it was Bobby Hewitt. And then, man, that was such a good year, 2017. I was racking top 10s, and it felt, I was just so happy. Like, I've never been in, I haven't been in that place in a long time where I was happy because I really had to earn this one. And I was getting top 5s in Supercross, going to outdoors. I'm crushing it. 2 top 4 overalls, first 2 races, get 2 podiums outdoors. I'm fucking back on the podium. You know, I'm like,
yeah,
you know, just like so emotionally, like, I'm like, I don't know. It fucking felt so good because I had to earn it. And then boom, re-signed for the following year, 2018. And, I'll never forget 2017. It was just such a good year. Went to Martley Basin, podium to MX of Nations, went to OzX, won the first night, went to Paris, I might have won the first night there. Like, I was on such a good roll, and it was just so good. It was a really good feeling. I had to earn that one, so it was cool.
Yeah, and I mean, I think they're the ones that, I guess, like, just to start with, like, having that belief in yourself, and that's kind of I think that's kind of like a special and underrated thing as well, is like sometimes, and I mean, this is especially in business, like for me, the podcast, I can relate to this because when you say that you're going to do a podcast, everyone's like, oh yeah, sick. Like everyone's doing that. You know what I mean? But then when you think, like, you see something and then it's like what you said, you just shut your mouth and then you just do it over and over. And then after a while, other people start to like kind of see your vision. And I think it's actually like a pretty rewarding place to be when you're the only one. I mean, you would have had Sarah and you would have had your parents that believed in the vision, but I don't know, there's something cool about being isolated in a certain belief and then just like grinding for it. And then, yeah, I mean, dude, I remember being just so fucking happy for you when you got that ride because, dude, Jeremy said something to me a few years ago that always stuck with me when it was actually between Chad and Cooper to get the Red Bull KTM ride. And then Chad obviously didn't get it. And Jeremy's like, man, regardless of if you're a Chad Reed fan, it's way harder to make a new Chad Reed than to keep the one that you've got. And I like felt the same with you in that sense, like not even on a personal level of like being a friend, but just for the sport. I was like, dude, this is the biggest loss to the sport right now. And, you know, I mean, even like filming, the boys were showing me clips of a Marvel this year. And it's like just the style that you've got and the flavor that you bring to the races. I was like, this is literally a tragedy if Dean Wilson does half a season on a privateer Yamaha and then we don't like see him anymore, you know? So yeah, I think like everyone won when Bobby Hewitt gave you that ride.
No, I have so much respect for Bobby. Like, dude, Bobby would go to bat for us so hard. Cause he always believed in us. And, yeah, Bobby was, really good. And like, also what made that year so good was the team chemistry. Like, dude, I got on this team and I think, I think I got on this team and I felt like I could be myself again. Dude, we would talk the shit. We would be laughing. Like we had Scuba on there. Mohead was my mechanic. Like the whole, like we just worked so good as a team. Like even as Jason, like 2017 was probably our funnest year. And Jason brought a lot of fun back into my racing too. Because the 2 years before that I was very serious and I was kind of got depressed and obviously I blew my knee out both years and you know I earned my way back on the Husky team and then me and Jason are riding together and you know we're still like after the races sometimes we'll go out and have a few drinks and like I'm like damn Jason's like he's kind of like how I was like he still likes to enjoy himself but he's still like it's funny like I will talk to random people that don't know Jason and like they were like, oh man, Jason Anderson's getting drug tested. Like, you know, cause the whole Team Fried thing, cause you know, at the races, they drug test. And I'm like, dude, Jason is literally one of the hardest workers. Like, he doesn't post about it. He doesn't talk about it. Dude, that dude puts in the work. Like, when it comes to writing, training, you know, he may not love the training part, but like I've seen him at the test track, and like some of the things he does, like, and I literally sound like a fanboy right now, and he's my competition and stuff, but I learned a lot riding with him. Like, he really does some things on the practice track that like a lot of people don't do. And he doesn't, I swear, if he raced all the time like he practiced, he'd be so dominant. Like, it's pretty phenomenal. Really? But
what sort of stuff is he doing different at the track?
Oh, he's just so efficient. He's so efficient. He's so efficient. I learned so much. Like so while you're doing a main event, your legs get pretty burnt out, right? Like, especially for me, because I'm tall. So when I go from standing to sitting, that's like a full squat, right? And think about it over the time. He's almost like a really fast, lazy rider. So he's really efficient. Like, his heart rate stays low, and I learned this from him. Like, he would come into if there's a whoop section right out of a corner, he would send it out of the corner, and then he would shift going into the whoops, but stay sitting down, and then like just float across the whoops, where I would come around and I would like kind of set up, and I'd be in a tall gear already. I'd already be in third or fourth, you know, like whoa. He'd be in second, rip the corner, seat bounce into the whoops, grab his gear, third, and then it's like the little details he does that people that race and know what's going on like can tell, but there's just these little details that Jason does. He's very efficient and like really good roll speed. Andy Corner is really good because he puts that ski out, like, never had a knee injury, but he puts that ski out and just leans the bike. I can't do that with my knees. So I've learned a lot from him. And that year 2017, like, dude, we had so much fun. We had a blast. We worked really hard and had a good time as well.
If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. And to listen to the full 3-hour podcast, search Gypsy Tales in your favorite podcast platform or click the link in the description below. Gypsy Gang.